welcome back to Truthatude. My name is Lindsay Servine, and every week I put out videos talking about confidence. I give practical advice on daily situations that affect our self-confidence as women and all the things we encounter in life that can have effects on our self-confidence and our self-esteem. So if you're new around here and that sounds interesting, then definitely feel free to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss a video and you can enjoy more content on building your self-confidence. If you are a returning subscriber, as always, I love you and thanks again for showing up and showing love to the wonderful community that we are creating here. So today I wanted to talk about job interviews and how to be confident and your best self in a job interview. So before I dive into that though, a little update. I have been on the mend. I am in the process of getting my second tooth implant, and let me tell you girls, it has been a rocky road. I had like crazy infection and had to like redo the procedure, and it was just like not as smooth as the first one. So that is where I've been. Little life update also. During that time, my little baby Zolcita, who is hiding under the bed right now, turned 5 years old. So blessed to have her. If you're wondering who Zolsa is, she is my rambunctious little pit bull. If you're not following me on Instagram, you should, because I post a lot of pictures of her and she gets more love than I do. Rightfully so. Anyway, getting back into it. So I really pride myself in my job interview skills, and I have been complimented on my interview skills, and it's because it all started with my very first job when I was 14 years old. I was a little nerd and I researched my little butt off on how to do a really good job interview, what to wear, you know, what to bring, how to build a resume, and just all the things that I thought I needed to begin my career as a professional. And even though, you know, my first job when I was 14 was being a car hop at an old school A&W restaurant, kudos to you if you know what that is, I just really thought it was important to be prepared, and doing that research when I was 14 and building on it over the years really helped me solidify my job interview skills and land some really solid jobs and get promoted time and time again. So I thought it would be super helpful. I love giving practical advice, especially on this channel, and I was happy to do this because this actually came from one of your requests. So if you have questions about confidence in any area of your life, feel free to leave me a comment, shoot me a message. I am happy to do a video for you answering your questions. So getting right into it, talking about interview confidence and getting that job and being your best self when it comes to a job interview, I'm gonna break it down into 3 segments. What you should do before your job interview, what you should do during your job interview, and what you should do after your job interview. So sit tight, we're gonna dive right in. I know that a lot of people get very nervous when it comes to preparing for a job interview, and I want you to feel like your absolute best, most confident self when you walk in that room or you turn on that video, and I want you to shine in your job interview because I want you to get that job. And I want you to feel confident. And just like anything else in your life that takes confidence, it requires practice. And I really do believe that you can create a strategy around anything to feel more confident in whatever situation you encounter in life. The first thing I'm going to dive into is what you should do before your job interview. Now, a lot of this advice is common sense, but we need reminding sometimes. So the very first thing I would recommend is make sure you do your research. Research the company that you're going to be working for. Know them in and out. Get to know the background story, how they started. Make sure you know who the top dog is at the company. Even if it's a small family-owned business, like you should know who you're going to be working for. Make sure you understand what kind of culture they have there. Stalk their social media. Really dive in and get to know this company, because you're gonna find out one of 2 things. Either you're not wanting to work there after all, or 2, you're gonna get more excited and more pumped because it's gonna be a great fit for you. So really do your research. And that actually goes beyond just the company. Research the industry. Find out who their competitors are, what they're doing well, what they're not doing well, because you can talk about those things in your interview. You can say, hey, I noticed that so-and-so in the industry is doing this, and it's really helping them. This is a strategy that might help us, right? So make sure that you know the company, make sure that you know the industry, and make sure that you know the competitors and what they're doing. Just be well versed so that you can look really smart and well prepared. And you also want to know the role. Make sure that you read not only the job description that the company is providing and the application that you are applying, make sure that you research other similar roles in the industry so that you can know what to expect when it comes to negotiating a salary, or what kind of responsibilities you're going to have in this role, or what kind of skill set this job actually requires. So just make sure that you do your research. I cannot tell you how many times I have interviewed people, or I have witnessed interviews where people did not even know anything about the company, and when it came down to answering questions, they were fumbling and really just bombed the interview. So make sure that you research the company. I don't care if it's a restaurant. If you're applying to be a server at the restaurant, you better go and eat at the restaurant, hang out at the restaurant, find out what they're all about, get the vibe. Make sure you do your research. I can't stress that enough. I also want to add a note that I really do think you should stalk their social media, but when you find them on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever, be cautious about connecting with them just yet. Use your best judgment. I would honestly recommend not connecting with anybody in the company directly until after you get the job, okay? So just a little note on that. Speaking of online presence and stalking their social media, make sure that you clean up your online presence. Make sure that if you have a public profile, that it's something that you wouldn't mind being blasted on the news, something that you wouldn't mind your employer seeing. Make sure that you clean it up, or make it private as you can. Because I promise you, in this day and age, people are looking at your online presence to see if you are a good fit for the role. And this can really kind of screw you over in not even getting an interview or not even getting your resume looked at. So just be sure to have a tidy, presentable, professional, and private online presence. A really important thing that I want you to do before your interview is I want you to create some talking points. I cannot tell you how many people skip this step and they just go into the interview and wing it. And some people are really good at that. I have gotten to the point in my professional career where I can kind of wing an interview, but I would never do that. That's just not how I roll. So create some talking points. In your talking points, I want you to read that job description, and I want you to come up with 2 or 3 really good examples of how you fit that role, how you meet that skill, or how you can solve that problem that's in that job description. I also want you to jot down some highlights of your resume, some key achievements that you have, or some major projects that you worked on that are relevant to the role. Now, if this is your first job, do not stress about the resume. I think you should still create a resume. I had a resume when I was 14, and if this is your first job, focus on the skills that you have. Create a tidy, short, 1-page resume with your info and your contact and just some key skills that you have that would be useful in this job. And really don't stress about it. If you never had a job and this is your first resume, there are plenty of templates you can Google on the internet. Please don't copy verbatim, but just focus on your skills. Another thing that I really want you to include in your talking points is examples of difficult situations or problems that you have handled and how you handled them. Because I promise you, they're going to ask you some version of this question in your interview if they are a good interviewer. And then finally, as part of your talking points, I want you to prepare some questions. And later in this video, I will tell you some really good quality questions that I want you to ask. It is a huge mistake and a missed opportunity if you do not ask questions in your interview, because people make the mistake of having the interview solely focused on them and if they are a good fit for the job, when you should also be interviewing the company. Is this a good fit for you? And using this as an opportunity to discover if this is really a company that you want to work for. Is this a team that you want to be a part of? So absolutely make questions part of your talking points, and I will give you some great questions to ask, so don't you worry. As you're preparing for this job interview, I want you to get very clear on your values and your why. I want you to know going into the interview what your needs are, what your wants are, and what your values are, and whether or not this job aligns with those things and can fulfill those for you. Be very clear on who you are going into the interview, and be really honest with yourself. Can you get what you're looking for from this job? And if not, then you don't even need to interview. You could just use it for practice, but make sure that you're very clear on your why going into this interview. The reason that I stress this is because being confident in a job interview or any situation in life really does require a level of self-awareness. You really do need to be clear on your values. And if you aren't really clear on your values, or you need to brush up on them, or you want to, practice getting clear on your values, I will leave a link somewhere here to the video that I did on how to write your value statement. If you haven't written your value statement, it is time to do that, especially ahead of a job interview. So don't miss this opportunity. Get clear on your values. All right, ladies, so now we're gonna talk about what to wear in an interview. Now, there's a lot of different advice out on the internet on what you should wear during an interview, but my advice to you is to dress for the atmosphere or a little above it. And this is why research is so important. You need to know the culture of the company so that you can dress accordingly and dress just a smidge more professional for the interview. Some industries, it's not appropriate to wear a full suit or a dress. I had a job interview once at a golf course. If I would have showed up in a suit, I would have looked silly. So obviously I wore proper golf attire. And on the other side, you don't want to be super casual if it's a suit and tie kind of vibe. So do your research. And if you're unsure, the safest bet is to always dress professional. So you want to have, obviously no cleavage. You don't want to be Tits McGee in your interview. Nice, clean, fresh face, subtle makeup. You don't want any bright colors, clown makeup, none of that. Just clean, professional, no holes, no tattered jeans, obviously no stains. These are just the basics. Stray away from the messy bun. It doesn't look good on all of us. Today was a struggle with my hair. So basically everything that I have going on right now, not suitable for a job interview. However, if you're stressing, get yourself a basic black blazer and voila, job interview appropriate. Really, it's a good fix. So don't stress. Go to your secondhand store, get a basic black blazer, nice pair of dark jeans, a little blouse underneath, wear your hair down, comb it, keep it nice, whatever. It really doesn't have to be super stressful. You just need to do your research. I would also recommend having a backup outfit, okay? And also bringing it with you, because if you're like me and you spill things on yourself, you're gonna need to be able to quickly change your shirt in your car or something. And the bonus about having a backup outfit is that for your second interview, your outfit is already picked out, or it could be your first day outfit. So I always recommend selecting 2 outfits for your interview. Your number 1 choice and your backup. Trust me, it is a lifesaver. Quick note, I know that a lot of people wear blacks or neutrals on an interview, but I recommend wearing a bright, memorable, but not flashy color. I usually will wear like a black blazer and a red top and black slacks, or I even have a red blazer. I always try to wear something that they're gonna remember me, because in the sea of black and navy suits that they're gonna see all day, you want them to remember you in a subtle way. Subtle, ladies. No glitter, no rhinestones, okay? I love me some rhinestones, but not on interview day, okay? Something that's also gonna help you pick out your outfit and also know how to prepare for the interview is whoever is your contact, make sure that you ask them what the format of the interview is going to be and how long it is. This is really important because there are different types of interviews and a lot of people don't think about that. So make sure that you ask what the format of the interview is going to be. Is it going to be a one-on-one interview? Is it going to be a panel interview where you have several people interviewing you? Is it going to be a group interview where there are several candidates and they're asking you questions at the same time? That is popular and it happens and you don't want to be caught off guard. Is it a luncheon interview or will there be food in the interview? I know this sounds a little crazy, but this happened to me and I thankfully did my research because when you have a luncheon interview, it's a little bit more casual, so you don't want to be in a suit and there are different elements that change based on the format of the interview, so make sure that you ask this. And I'll tell you a story. I was interviewing for a job in college and it turned out to be a group interview and there were about 20 potential candidates all sitting around a table and the interviewer was asking questions to the entire group, and how I stood out was kind of rude, but it worked. Every time they asked a question, I didn't raise my hand. I stood up and started answering the question every single time. And I was the one who got selected. Now this is a little rude, right? Because it didn't give anybody else the opportunity, but I didn't care. I didn't want anybody else to have the opportunity. So be tactful, but group interviews do happen. And you know, I was invited to a lunch interview once and I wasn't sure what to wear and it was a little awkward because you're eating in front of the people that are interviewing you. And so just brush up on your manners and do your research. Find out the format of the interview. I cannot stress that enough. It will ease your tension and help you prepare. One last thing that you should do before your interview is draft your thank you email so that it is ready for you to send as soon as you get home. Just a quick little email that says, thank you so much for your time today. I really enjoyed our conversation. I look forward to hearing from you. Enjoy your day. Thank you sincerely, blah, blah, blah. Make sure that you just have that drafted and ready to go, and then as soon as you get home, you can just hit send. Thank you. A special note for phone interviews. Make sure that you prepare for these interviews just as much as you would for an in-person interview. You want to make sure that you're not going to be anywhere where it's noisy. Go sit in your car by yourself if you have to. And for video interviews, make sure that you test your video. Test your outfit and your makeup, because you do not want to have a situation where you have a see-through blouse on camera. Trust me, this has happened. Go look at some of my older videos. Or where your makeup looks beautiful in the mirror, but on camera you have a clown face, okay? So test your makeup and your outfit on camera before your interview day. And just a little pro tip, ladies, do not wear any SPF when you're in front of a camera, because on screen it's gonna whitewash you and you're gonna have a really super bright face. Just a little pro tip for you. And make sure that you clean up your background, right? So in my background, I don't have a whole lot going on, but you know, what you can't see in my background is the pile of clean laundry sitting over there on my bed, right? So make sure that your background is clean and that you're not gonna be disturbed if you have a phone or a video interview. All right, now getting to interview day. So the things that you should do in your interview. Absolutely bring a notepad and pen and some water. You want to be hydrated during your interview, and it helps give you natural pauses and breaks in the conversation. If you tend to talk really fast or you stumble over your words or you get nervous, you can take a sip of water and take a breath. And you're going to be bringing a notepad and pen if you're following this advice, because you will have prepared your talking points. I also want you to bring copies of your resume, which is why it's important to ask what kind of format the interview is, so you'll know how many copies to bring. You want to have enough for everybody interviewing you, and you also want to have one for yourself so that you can quickly reference it to answer any questions that come up about your resume. So a couple basics during the interview: obviously smile. You want to look friendly and inviting and like you want to work there. Make eye contact. Try your best not to fidget. It's really okay if you are nervous, just put your hands in your lap. Make sure you have good posture, obviously. Like I said, just some of the basics to remind yourself. Something that's super helpful and really impresses people is when you remember their names. So as soon as you get their names and you're sitting down, write down the names of the people that are interviewing you. This is also helpful to make a little note of something that will help you remember who they are, because you never know. They might be your manager, they might end up being your boss, they may end up being your teammate. So you want to make sure that you can remember these people, and you're going to be mentioning them in your thank you when you send it. So make sure that you write down the names of the people that are interviewing you. During your interview, when they are asking you questions, make sure that you lead with value. How can you help them? How can you solve the problems that they're looking to solve by filling this job? And don't be shy about your skills or your talents. Women really tend to undersell themselves, and I'm not telling you to brag, but if you have a skill set or you're particularly talented in something, make sure that you convey that in the interview. This is your time to shine. They want to know what you are capable of. Please do not lie or exaggerate, okay? You are enough. You don't have to come up with crazy stories or scenarios. Just stay true to yourself, don't lie, and don't exaggerate. Believe me, this happens. And also, don't get hung up if there's one or two skills that you don't have for the job. And I'll tell you why. Because if you are a good fit in the culture, you have a good attitude, and you fill most of the role, then anything else, they can teach you. And here's the thing, any job that you have, especially if it's your first job or a couple, early jobs, you have to learn how they do things anyways. The first few weeks, you're just learning their system, their way of doing things. So don't get hung up on the fact that you might be missing a skill or two necessary for the role. You can teach skills. And I'll tell you this, I used to interview people for jobs, and when I was hiring, I cared more about their attitude, their positivity, and whether or not, they could be a good fit for my team and a good fit for the culture versus whether or not they had the skills for the job. Now, I wanted them to have some experience, obviously, but I knew that I could teach them anything that I needed them to know for the job, as long as they had a great attitude and a good personality and a good fit for my team. So don't get too hung up on the skills, because skills are teachable, personality and fit are not. So just be your charming self. So during your interview, I want you to be prepared to answer some really common questions. Be prepared to talk about your strengths, your skills, your talents, and you will already have this ready because you prepared your talking points, so don't stress. And then also be prepared to discuss your weaknesses. Now, this is one of the worst interview questions out there, but it's still very popular. What are some of your weaknesses? I hate this question. So how I answer this question is by flipping it around on them and asking them, well, what is it you're hoping to learn about me by asking this question? And then based on how they answer, then you can decide, like, do I tell them a weakness? Do I tell them something I'm working on? Or do I just say, like, look, if you're hoping to learn, like, how aware I am about myself, then I'm acutely aware, or this is something that I'm working on, or this is an area of opportunity for me. But always keep it positive and light when they ask about your weaknesses. Don't go down the road of self-deprecating, because that's not attractive, and they don't want to know how much you hate yourself, okay? Because you love yourself, and you're confident, and you're beautiful, and you're amazing, so none of that. Self-awareness is key, and that's what I mean about knowing your strengths and your weaknesses and being prepared to answer questions about that. Self-awareness is super important, especially in a job interview. Also, be prepared to answer questions about why you want to work there and why you would be a good fit for the role. They're going to ask you a version of those two questions, and that is why research is so important on the front end of an interview. You can tell them some things that you would like about the culture of the company. You can tell them why you'd be a good fit and what problems you can solve for them. So Be prepared to answer questions like those. One of the best questions I was asked in an interview was, why shouldn't we hire you? I loved this question. I told them that they shouldn't hire me if they don't like ideas and if they just want someone to do tasks, because I am an idea person. I love to innovate, I love to find ways to do things efficiently, I love to create strategies, and I love to be creative. So I told them that they shouldn't hire me if they don't like ideas. So I promised you that I would give you some questions to ask. I really believe strongly that you should always ask questions in an interview. This is your opportunity to really discover the company that you're going to be working with. So some of the favorite questions I have to ask in an interview are questions about the team demographic. What are the people like that you're going to be working with? What is the cultural breakdown? What is the work atmosphere like? So you definitely want to ask questions about the team demographic and the work atmosphere and what kind of culture they have there. You want to make sure that you are a good fit and that this company and this team align with who you are and your values and where you're trying to get in your career. I also like to ask, what's a typical day like for this role? What is your typical day gonna look like in this job? That is a great way to get some insight as to what your typical day at work is gonna be like and whether or not that sounds like a day that you wanna have. Another question I recommend you asking is, who are you going to be reporting to? Who will be your manager? And what is their management style? Now be aware of the person who uses this disclaimer of, well, I'm not a micromanager. 9 times out of 10 when somebody says I'm not a micromanager, it means they're a micromanager. So just note that. I really like to ask, what does a superstar in this role look like? What kind of qualities does a rock star in this role have? That is such a great question because you can find out what their ideal person is for this role, and when they answer you, you can talk about how you match that. It's beautiful. I also think you should ask, what is the hardest part of this job? Or what are some of the things that the previous person in this role struggled with? That is a great question to find out what some of the challenges of the role might be so that you can prepare yourself and really get an opportunity to shine in those instances. I always like to ask the question, what is the biggest problem I can help you solve? What is keeping you up at night that makes you want to fill this role with a rock star person? How can I really help you? How can I have the biggest impact on your life if I get this job? That is such a great question. And trust me, people are really impressed with this question. And then also just basic question, how soon are you looking to fill this role? That will give you an idea of what you need to do in that time frame, and also give you the opportunity to let them know if you have any upcoming travel or vacation time that you're going to be needing to take off. So always ask how soon they're looking to fill the role. A good interviewer will tell you that up front, but if they don't, make sure that you ask that. A couple of questions you should not ask in a first interview are questions about salary and benefits. Those are questions for later on in the process, so don't ask those during a first interview because it comes off as really thirsty. And also try to stray away from really personal questions or questions that are not relevant to the job. Obviously you can ask them, light personal questions like, oh, you mentioned that you like soccer, my kid plays soccer, things like that. But if it's not relevant to the role or it doesn't flow naturally in the conversation, stray away from personal questions. Along the lines of questions, I'm actually thinking about doing an entire video dedicated to questions that you should and shouldn't ask in a job interview. So if that sounds like something you would want to see, leave me a comment and let me know. I'd be happy to do a dedicated video to all the questions that I ask in an interview and all the questions I really don't think you should ask in an interview. So just let me know in the comment section if you'd be interested in a video like that. So during your interview, I just want you to remember to be confident, don't be shy, and don't be afraid to shine. Assume that you are a yes. Assume that they want you to have this job. feel confident, and just make sure that you lead with a ton of value and that they know that you're going to be an asset for this team when you get this job. After the interview is just as important as before the interview and during the interview. You want to make sure that you have a solid follow-up strategy. So I mentioned before, making sure that you draft your thank you email ahead of time so that when you get home from the interview, all you have to do is insert the names of the people that were in the interview and send it. And then also, if possible, a really beautiful, classy touch and a good way to stand out is send a handwritten thank you card. And just keep it simple. Thank you so much for your time today. I really enjoyed meeting you, Joe, and I also really enjoyed meeting, Martha and Karen, and it was such a pleasure speaking with you today. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Thanks again. Sincerely, Lindsay. A handwritten note goes miles, trust me. So if you can, send a handwritten thank you note. And if you're not sure where to send it, just send it to the general HR person, send it to the general address, and make sure that you just address it to the person that interviewed you. And then follow up a week later with a simple email that just says, hey, Joe Schmo, I just wanted to send a quick note to follow up and thank you again for your time. I really enjoyed speaking with you during my interview last week. I wanted to make sure that there weren't any additional questions or additional information that you needed from me. I really look forward to hearing from you soon regarding next steps. Thank you again. Take care. Sincerely, Lindsay. Keep it short and simple. If you haven't heard from them before a week, then absolutely send a follow-up email. It's okay, it's expected, it's professional. Don't badger them. And after that, if they haven't responded to your follow-up email, then let it go and let the universe take care of it, the rest of it. I know that this video was a little bit longer, but it's because I really do believe in preparing for job interviews, and I know that this is a stress point for so many of us. So whether this is your first job or you're a well-seasoned professional just looking to brush up on your interview skills, or you've been out of the professional world for a little bit and you're getting back into it, definitely take some of these interview tips and be prepared as your best self for your job interview. And just remember, you are smart, you are capable, and you are confident, and you owe it to yourself to go for it. So good luck. I hope that this video helps some of you land that job, and I want to know, what is the best or worst question you've been asked in an interview? Leave me a comment below. I really am curious about some of the questions that have been asked in interviews, and if you have any great interview stories or horror interview stories, I also love reading those. So let's get a conversation going in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your continued support of this channel. I love you so much, and good luck on that job interview. I know you're going to kill it. So let me know if you get the job and if any of these tips helped you. And if you like content like this and you want to read more on building your self-confidence, then definitely check out the blog, Truthatude.com, and you can also follow me on social. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I'll leave all the links in the description box for you there. Thanks again for watching. Until the next one, stay true to the Truthatude. Ciao!